What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. What is happening right now behind the scenes with XRP? It's not normal. BlackRock, CK, Fidelity, the two biggest asset managers on Earth, are moving like they are about to flip a switch that could rewrite this entire crypto market. And if the XRP ETF rumor is real, we're about to witness the biggest supply shock in crypto history. As always, before we get started, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. And now, let's kick it off with this. We're going to get straight into the insanity. I hope you're ready because it's about to get wild. Everyone, something massive just happened. And you know what? 99% of people missed it. They're not paying attention, they just don't see it. CoinShares, one of the only firms publicly trying to launch an XRP ETF, just backed out. Their Form S1 pulled their SEC Rule 477 filed, no shares sold, no ETF launched. They simply stepped aside and walked away. Now you have to stop and ask the question, why? Why would they walk away at the very moment XRP ETF speculation is hitting a fever pitch? Why would they retreat when they're seeing the insane volume flowing into these other four ETFs? Why wouldn't they want to be first to market? At first glance, the average person thinks, oh no, this must be bearish for XRP. Wrong. It's the opposite. This is one of the most bullish signals you could ever ask for, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. This is what you see right before the elephant stampede in. CoinShares didn't fail. They weren't denied. This wasn't weakness. This was a strategic retreat. Right as BlackRock, CK, and Fidelity, literal trillion-dollar titans, are rumored to be preparing their own XRP ETF filings. Remember, 2 years ago, BlackRock, CK had that fake filing? How fake was it really? Because what you're seeing now is not coincidence, it's coordination. Both BlackRock, CK, and Fidelity were just at Ripple Swell. These aren't small-time players. These aren't unknown issuers. These are the masters of the ETF game. And what do smaller firms do when giants step into the arena? They move, they get out of the lane. They allow the juggernauts to take center stage because they know exactly what happens when BlackRock, CK, and Fidelity enter a market. They absorb liquidity, they capture attention, and they dominate institutional flows. So, CoinShares did the only logical thing. They stepped aside. But for you and me, this is incredibly bullish. It means the runway has just been cleared for the biggest ETF issuers on Earth. If you're serious about getting ahead of the next major financial shift, you need to join XRP Insiders Elite. You'll get exclusive insider alerts, the millionaire mindset strategies the top 1% quietly use, and full access to all premium content. It's in the description below. Use code millionaire for 10% off. Now let's get into the heart of this XRP article. November 28th, CoinShares withdraws. No drama, no denial, no issues, just a clean exit. Hey guys, we're good. We see what's coming. We're stepping off the track because they know who's getting ready to run the race. BlackRock, CK, and Fidelity do not enter a market quietly. They do not test the waters. They move when they are certain the infrastructure is ready, the regulation is clear, and the liquidity can support institutional scale. Let's break that down. First, regulatory clarity. Judge Torres already ruled that XRP itself, when sold on exchanges, is not a security. That's the classification ETFs needed. Check. Second, Ripple's infrastructure is now fully institution-ready. Enterprise custody, compliant liquidity pathways, settlement-grade rails, everything. Third, macro timing. Institutions don't chase tops. Institutions create tops. They accumulate quietly during long, boring sideways periods. And XRP, it's been asleep for over a year. That's exactly when the smart money begins positioning. Then comes ETF momentum. Bitcoin got one, Ethereum got one, and the next real-world utility asset is XRP. This is the natural progression. And this is where the bombshell that almost nobody is talking about comes in, the supply shock. XRP's liquid supply is tiny, shockingly tiny. OTC desks are thin. Ripple stopped programmatic sales because of the lawsuit. Exchange balances are shrinking. Long-term wallets all-time highs. And if BlackRock, CK, or Fidelity launches a spot ETF, they need actual XRP, not paper, not derivatives, not synthetic exposure, real tokens. That's why the market is not ready for what's coming. Look at the inflow models. If XRP ETFs attract flows similar to early Bitcoin ETF numbers, which is very possible, the demand becomes absurd. In 30 days, 613 million XRP sucked off the market. In 90 days, 1.18 billion. In 180 days, 3.6 billion. In 1 year, 7.45 billion. But guess what? Exchanges only hold around 3 to 5 billion. That means somewhere between month 6 and month 12, the entire market breaks. Demand exceeds supply. Price has no choice but to revalue and revalue violently. That's why the big players are making moves now. Because once the filings go public, the window closes. Coin shares stepping aside, that's not weakness, that's clearing the runway for the kings. If BlackRock, CK, or Fidelity wins first approval, they don't just participate, they own the XRP ETF market. Before we go deeper into the big picture forces behind this, I need to touch briefly on the analysis coming from Grok. Elon's AI system hears the chatter, scrapes everything, detects trends before humans do. And even it is picking up signals that BlackRock, CK, and Fidelity are circling XRP. And while everyone laughed about that fake filing 2 years ago, here's the thing most people forget. To file in Delaware, you must show up in person and provide 2 forms of ID. Passport, driver's license, something traceable. We never found out who filed it. How is that possible? Cameras everywhere, ID scanned, logs stored, yet no answer. Doesn't make sense unless it wasn't fake, unless it was too early, and unless the timing now is finally right. Because once you start examining the people behind these moves, you realize it's not random, it's not scattered, and it's definitely not accidental. One name stands out more than almost anyone: Robbie Mitnick. If you've been in the XRP community for years, that name should ring loud. Back in 2018, Mitnick worked for Ripple. And during that time, he helped publish a research paper that literally laid out how to properly value crypto assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and most importantly, XRP. It wasn't a hype piece. It wasn't a speculative blog post. It was a fully structured valuation framework that broke down utility, liquidity, velocity, adoption cycles, and real-world settlement use cases. Now, fast forward to today, Robbie Mitnick is no longer at Ripple. He's now the head of digital assets for BlackRock, CK, not an analyst, not an advisor, the person architecting the digital strategy for the largest asset manager on the planet. You don't get hired for a job like that unless you have strategic insight. And who else understands the design, throughput capacity, tokenomics, and institutional settlement potential of XRP better than someone who worked directly with the Ripple engineers and economists in the early days? And here's what makes the connection even more wild. Mitnick's report was co-written by Susan Athey, a Ripple board member who had access to Ripple's internal understanding of XRP's foundation long before enterprise adoption exploded. Combined, they produced one of the most accurate frameworks for valuing digital assets, especially those aimed at solving institutional settlement. And now those same minds, those same insights are sitting at the very top of BlackRock CK's digital playbook. BlackRock CK does not hire people randomly. They hire people they need for specific objectives. And right now, the objective is extremely clear. They're positioning for the tokenized future, not hype, not narratives, the real institutional grade trillions of dollars on chain world. And in that world, what do you need? Fast settlement, liquidity, compliance-ready infrastructure, global rails that can handle cross-border movement without friction, everything Ripple builds around, everything XRP enables. So when people ask, why hasn't BlackRock K filed yet? The answer is almost too simple. BlackRock K never files early. They wait until the runway is fully cleared. They time their entries with sniper precision. They don't guess. They don't gamble. They enter when retail is asleep and institutions are ready to move. And now that CoinShares is out of the way, the odds of a BlackRock, CK, or Fidelity filing have gone through the roof. But that's just one piece of the bigger picture, because while most people focus on the US, the real strategic battlefield has quietly moved overseas, specifically to the Middle East. And this is where everything starts converging at once. BlackRock CK recently held their first ever board meeting in Abu Dhabi. This wasn't a vacation, this wasn't a symbolic gesture, this was royalty-level access with the UAE's most powerful financial leaders. And the timing couldn't have been more perfect because Ripple's presence in the Middle East is massive. Dubai and Abu Dhabi aren't just crypto hubs. They are designing global financial frameworks centered around tokenization, cross-border liquidity, and fintech plus AI integration. Exactly what Ripple has been building for years. Ripple has a licensed office in the Dubai International Financial Center. They have partnerships across MENA remittance corridors. They have regulatory approval from DFSA. They've run their major Swell conference in Dubai. They've expanded Ripplet throughout the region at a pace unmatched by any blockchain company. And Ripple executives openly talk about the Middle East being one of the most strategically important hubs for their future. So now ask yourself this: what does Abu Dhabi want? The answer is simple. Tokenized financial infrastructure. Settlement rails that are fast, efficient, and globally compliant. Liquidity rails for tokenized funds. A bridge between modern fintech and AI-driven finance. And who is already providing the exact stack they need? Ripple. And who is preparing to tokenize trillions in assets? BlackRock's K. These two worlds aren't moving separately. They're converging. And it's happening publicly, not behind the curtain. The dots aren't hidden. They're in plain sight. The expansion into Abu Dhabi, the institutional partnerships, the regulatory alignment, the Ripple integrations, the BlackRock K board meeting, the timing, all of it. Then you add in the next major piece. Ripple's partnership with Securitize and the rollout of RUSD smart contract functionality. Most people saw that announcement and shrugged. But what they missed is that RUSD and the infrastructure Ripple is enabling directly supports tokenized funds such as BlackRock's K's Bedell and VanEck's Yield Fund. These are not speculative ideas. These are actual tokenized funds that already exist today and rely on technology that Ripple and Securitize are enabling. So think about what that means. Ripple is now part of the tech stack, powering the same category of products BlackRock is scaling globally. That is not a small coincidence. That is not a nice to have. That is a strategic alignment. If BlackRock CK's tokenized funds are literally running on infrastructure connected to Ripple's ecosystem, why wouldn't they consider XRP, the settlement asset designed for institutional grade speed, and liquidity as the foundation for a future ETF? The path is logical. It's linear. It's consistent with everything BlackRock CK has done with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and it matches perfectly with how BlackRock K operates. They leverage infrastructure, talent, relationships, and compliance readiness before they move. And here's the craziest part. Every major signal is firing at the exact same time. CoinShares pulls out of the ETF race. BlackRock K and Fidelity quietly show up at Ripple Swell. Grok flags a surge in institutional XRP chatter. Regulatory clarity is finally real. Ripple's infrastructure is complete. Custody rails are live. Tokenization frameworks are switching on. Global alignment is forming. Middle East corridors are tightening. BlackRock CK's team already knows XRP deeply. Fidelity's retirement engine is primed for a new asset class. And XRP's liquid supply keeps shrinking week after week. These aren't random events. They aren't isolated headlines. They're coordinated moves positioning on a global scale. And once BlackRock CK or Fidelity files, everything hits at once. Inflows, supply shock, media cycle, institutional allocation, price revaluation, and a completely different market structure for XRP. This is not financial advice. And here's where things get even more surreal. Because once you zoom out far enough, you begin to realize that every major global shift in finance, every consolidation, every liquidity migration, every structural change has a very specific pattern. First comes silence, then comes subtle positioning. Then comes strategic talent acquisition, then comes regulatory alignment, then comes infrastructure, and then out of nowhere, what looks like an overnight event is actually the final click in a multi-year system that has already been quietly built. That's exactly what we're seeing with XRP right now. The mainstream thinks it's flat, dead, asleep. But behind the scenes, XRP is being positioned as a foundational settlement layer for the next phase of tokenized markets. Not because of hype, not because of speculation, but because its traits, liquidity, efficiency, deterministic settlement, throughput capacity, remittance architecture, and the ability to move institutional size value without clogging are exactly what large asset managers require when they convert real-world assets onto blockchains. That's why Ripple continues to appear in every meaningful conversation around tokenized treasuries, tokenized money market funds, tokenized bonds, and cross-border liquidity corridors. Tokenization is not coming, it's here. BlackRock CK, Franklin Templeton, VANC, Fidelity, UBS, HSBC, JP Morgan, Citi, every single one of them has begun building tokenized asset products. And all of them need the same things: settlement rails, liquidity rails, and institutional grade execution. Bitcoin can't fill that role. Ethereum is still too congested and too expensive, and stablecoins alone don't solve institutional settlement because they're not designed to move trillions across borders with compliance baked in. But XRP's architecture was literally built for that. Even back when people were mocking the project, Ripple was quietly constructing the plumbing that institutions are now desperately trying to adopt. The irony is almost poetic. The asset many ignored is now tailored for the exact future the world is moving into. Now combine that with the supply dynamics. Ripple's programmatic sales paused, exchange liquidity at multi-year lows, OTC desks thinner than ever, wallets holding long-term bags at all-time highs, and the ecosystem is about to face institutional demand unlike anything it has ever seen. A single approval from BlackRock CK or Fidelity doesn't just shift inflows, it restructures the entire distribution of XRP supply. Retail selling into that kind of demand wouldn't even register. The ETFs would need to pull supply from every corner of the market. And the math makes this unavoidable. There simply isn't enough liquid XRP to satisfy the inflow models. And if you're one of the people who genuinely wants to stay ahead of this next financial shift, not guess, not hope, but actually position with clarity, then getting into XRP Insider's Elite will put you where you need to be. You'll unlock private XRP Insider alerts, the mindset strategies used by elite wealth builders to make generational leaps, plus full access to every premium resource inside the program. It's all in the video description. And if you want to join today, use code MILLIONAIRE for 10%.